But we also need to spend that time to really listen and hear from our staff from different marginal communities, to hear how they're experiencing things and to really hear from how things can be changed. Compliance obviously is necessary. You know, we have legal compliance, we have all sorts of things we have to think about, and it's important. But I think in terms of inclusion and leadership, if we get too focused on compliance, then we forget how are individuals actually experiencing this. You know, it's all very well saying that, well, we need to be compliant with the Equality Act and we need to do what we need to do for disabled people, and that's fine. But if we get so focused on our compliance policies and, you know, different structures around that and forget the individual, you know, how are they experiencing this? What is their experience at work? Then I think we really do lose sight of the true sense of what inclusion means.
Yeah, definitely. So how can organisations turn good intentions into meaningful LGBTQ allyship?
Oh my gosh, allies are so important at the minute, you know. We more than ever need allies, particularly for those of us in the LGBT community. But being an ally isn't just about a badge or a flag or a pride party. It's about those everyday decisions, those everyday actions that as leaders you take to show that you value, you respect, and you honour your LGBTQ plus colleagues and workers. Okay, you may not understand everything, but to be an ally, you don't have to understand. You just have to be there, to be willing to put yourselves in those people's shoes as much as you're able to, and to say, yeah, I'm here, I want to learn, I want to develop, and I want to be there whenever I can. So it's not those big acts as much as they're important. It's the small acts, the small decisions that we take as leaders every single day. It really amazes me. I've been working in the disability inclusion space for, 20, 30 years now, and the same issues keep coming up. Leaders think that, well, if I'm going to employ a disabled person, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I'm going to have to make all these adjustments. I'm going to have to buy all this equipment. I might have to, you know, redesign the workplace. And it really isn't the case. Most adjustments for disabled people don't actually cost that much. And, you know, these days with flexible working, different ways of working, there's all sorts of ways you can accommodate people's needs. But more importantly, I think the big issue is that disability inclusion gets seen as an extra, an add-on, whereas if you really want to be inclusive, it is about that universal design. It's about thinking about if you're developing a new product, a new policy, developing a new team, whatever it might be in your organisation, thinking, okay, how can we make this inclusive from the start? Because we all benefit in every day from things that aren't just inclusive for disabled people, but inclusive for everybody. You know, steps. Who likes climbing steps? I mean, okay, steps are natural, but lifts and ramps, they're not just for disabled people, they're for people who have pushchairs or have other mobility issues or just don't want to walk up steps. So inclusion, disability inclusion is about that everyday commitment to inclusive design. Lots of organisations really do want to be inclusive. They're really committed to inclusion. They spend a lot of time and money on it. But I would say if you're not listening to and feeding in the lived experiences of your workers, then, you know, with the best will in the world, you will fall short. Yes, you may get some aspects of inclusion right, but if you're not really listening to your people, how they're feeling, how they're experiencing the workplace, then you're only going so far with inclusion. You know, we love in the world of EDI to talk about data and insights and analysis, and that's great. That is fantastic. We need that. We need to be data driven. But we also need to spend that time to really listen and hear from our staff from different marginal communities, to hear how they're experiencing things, and to really hear from how things can be changed. I have quite a simple hope. I really hope that through my speeches, people will be able to see things differently, whether that's themselves, their own situation, their own experiences, whether that's their experiences in work, whether that's the challenges they face individually. I really hope they will see things differently. There's also a phrase I like to use, inspiraction, not inspiration. By that I mean, if through my speech you feel inspired to act differently, then I've accomplished what I've set out to do.